Shadowbinders is back in stock on shopclownfish.com. That's shopclownfish.com. If you missed our Indiegogo, now's your chance. You can get the books again. And now on with the show. Netflix show confirmed.
Yeah, call me surprised. I'm not.
Hey guys, this is Neon. I am here with Geeky Sparkles.
Hello.
And it keeps getting better and better. We're going to talk about Kevin Smith's Masters of the Universe Revelation, the supposed sequel to the 1980s He-Man series, which I don't think it really is. I mean, just looking at the trailers and tonally, it does not mesh up with the Filmation show at all.
Oh, but it gets better.
It gets better.
And surprise to no one.
Surprise to no one, there is more race swapping going on. King Grayskull, who is the ancestor of Prince Adam, or at least he was in the 2002 series, has been race swapped. He has the power now. So we're gonna talk about that, because it's not the race swapping necessarily that is the issue, but rather the attitude that is the issue. Because according to Kaylee Paley on Twitter, one of the writers working on the comic or working on the series said that we asked ourselves early on about the need for two giant white blonde dudes in the pantheon of Masters of the Universe. Hey guys, before we get into the video anymore, this is actually worse than we thought. It's actually the producer of the new He-Man show coming out and saying that they didn't want any more buff white dudes in the show, which is why they're doing a race swap, which we'll talk about.
But he did say too, though, that it was because they tried to use characters that weren't prevalent, which I had said in the video, which you'll hear moving forward, that I wonder if that's why they did it.
Yeah, now this was actually on a He-Man and She-Ra fan group, and it was, we saw this after we'd recorded the video, but he was actually replying to this dude here, I think, Tim, who's like, ugh, I prefer making new, unique black characters. Rather than race swapping originally white characters instead of wearing your own shirt, you're getting a hand-me-down shirt from someone else.
Yep.
And this is Ted Biaselli. Ted Biaselli, who is the director of original series at Netflix, a Netflix guy, said, Tim, so he's answering a black guy, by the way, who said he doesn't want a hand-me-down character. Tim, I hear you, and that will indeed be a part of our story too. But a big hurdle when you're introducing a new character to a line of so many well-established characters is they're bound to be outsiders and harder to accept as canon, at least for a while. Nobody gives a shit about Sir Laserlot. We asked ourselves early on about the need for two giant white blonde dudes in the pantheon of Masters of the Universe.
Pantheon, I mean the actual lore and history of the show.
Right. Honestly, it makes both characters less special. I wish I could take credit for being the one with the idea to make Grayskull black, because now in the history of all the champions of Grayskull, a black man has a role of prominence, as opposed to just being the guy with the clamp, who's King Randor's bodyguard. Clamp Champ was a badass, and they had a lot they could do with him. In the 2002 series, he was going to be Man-at-Arms replacement.
So basically, instead of just making the characters that existed that were black more badass, or making new characters, we're going to take one of the prominent characters, make him black, and as a hand-me-down, say, here you go. But it's okay, because he's prominent and badass.
So here we go with the rest of the video.
If that's how it was in Masters of the Universe, who are they to get to change it?
We're going to talk about that, because this is all, I think a lot of this is Netflix's doing.
I get that vibe too, because I said before, I don't understand why Kevin Smith, when he came down on high to learn us, made sure he tagged in Mattel, and did he tag in Netflix too?
I think it was mostly Mattel. It might have been Netflix too.
But I'm just thinking maybe there was conversations about how it wasn't going to maybe go over as well as they had hoped.
Yeah.
And maybe people, and maybe he tried to tell them. I don't know. And that's because why else would he do that? Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. So we're gonna talk about this, and just looking at everything going on with this show, that it is very clear that Netflix probably had a heavy hand in the direction of it, because
we know they did with She-Ra.
Yeah, it's every checkbox that Netflix is looking for in a TV show. They're race swapping characters. They're treating historically male characters badly
because in Hollywood, diversity just means women, lesbians, and black people.
Pretty much.
Where are the Asians? Where are the Hispanic people?
Oh no, actually, yeah, it depends in Hollywood. I guess that wasn't.
No,
Netflix.
I mean in like He-Man.
Yeah, well, they're probably not going to have Jitsu because Jitsu is problematic because Jitsu they considered him to be a racist stereotype, and also I noticed that the new Ninja, I don't think his mask comes off. He used to be able to take his mask off.
Again, Hollywood thinks that diversity means women, lesbians, and black people.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about this. Grab some popcorn. Before we get into it any further, please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants. Guys, we're over 205,000 subs.
Woohoo!
Thank you for the support. Yeah, so I guess the comic book tie-in is coming out, and they're recapping the history of the Power Sword. That this is King Grayskull. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with King Grayskull, doesn't surprise me. He wasn't really that prominent in Masters of the Universe lore.
So it's even better. They're going to race swap characters, but characters that you didn't know about.
Well, that's what they did with, was it Andra?
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, like nobody cared.
No, I mean, I honestly, Andra especially, I had no problem with because it was a character that was very minor character. No one cared. I mean, why you can't just make new characters? Who the hell knows? But to be fair, they probably get shit for doing that too, if we're going to be honest. But, at least they're picking a couple characters that weren't very well known. Because they're going to make big changes. It's going to, have it. People are going to be upset about. It's better to go with characters that aren't like, super popular. Everybody knows them characters, and then you can make them popular. But later on with this version.
Yeah. So here's the thing: King Grayskull is the ancestor of Prince Adam, King Randor, right? And depends on the continuity. They had the comic book continuity. Now the 2002 series is where I was most familiar with King Grayskull. Because they actually gave, and that's what I loved about the 2002 series, they actually gave a logical explanation for everything. Filmation just kind of made it up on the fly, but you could tell with the Mike Young series that they actually put some thought into the backstory of where Castle Grayskull came from, where the power of Grayskull came from. And it came from King Grayskull, who was like proto He-Man and was a complete badass. Like, he actually kind of made He-Man look like a pussy. This guy went toe-to-toe with Hordak, and he had his own episode. It was like a flashback episode. And Hordak, by the way, in the 2002 series, was not an emo pussy. If I can find Badass Hordak. There we go. Badass Hordak, not an emo pussy. Yeah, he was awesome. And this whole episode was awesome. You can find it out on YouTube, actually. It's The Power of Grayskull. And it gives you the fabulous secret history of Castle Grayskull, where the sword came from, where the sorceress came from. And she wound up overseeing the castle after he sacrifices himself. Spoilers. Anyway,
which is why I think they're going to try and do something like that with the new show, too.
Probably. Anyway, the tie-in comic comes out, and we know that they're going to touch on the history of King Grayskull, because they've also cast an actor for King Grayskull. Now, we were talking before we recorded that they also have Phil Lamar playing Hero.
Yes.
So Hero, again, is, well, it depends on the timeline, but there was a Hero that was supposed to be another ancestor of He-Man. That was supposed to happen in the original Mattel series. But there also was talk of a Hero that would have been the son of Teela and Adam. But now that we know that King Grayskull is, I would say African American, but there is no Africa in Eternia. So he's a black dude. He's a big buff black dude. It's possible that we're going to go through the timeline and have him, and then Hero, and then He-Man, or
Hero replaces He-Man.
Or Hero replaces He-Man. Given the direction of this show, that it's very...
I just don't know if they would go that far.
This is Netflix.
Mattel, though. I don't know if
Mattel has any say in what the hell is going on. I'm kind of getting the vibe that, like, Mattel's like, we want to do He-Man, but we need some help with the money because we're kind of broke. Okay. Oh... bunch of big blonde white guys.
We have a new inclusion, guidelines that you have to meet, and that's what this is about.
Yes.
But I just don't know if Mattel will go along with that. I really don't.
I don't know. Or they're just gonna wind up. I still think by the end of it, they're gonna be like, yeah, we don't need He-Man anymore. Everybody has the power. We all have the power. But it's very clear that He-Man's gonna take a powder early on. and the power sword's going to get lost, broken, stolen, something, and he's going to spend a lot of time probably as Adam, so Teela has to be the man at arms.
Man at arms,
and that's
yeah.
also been confirmed. Teela's man at arms, side shave Teela, and now we're going to go back. So I want to know, does this mean Adam is actually black?
Well, you know what? It's possible to have black ancestors and not be black. I mean, people are light skinned and might have come from, African bloodlines. It happens often.
Yeah, and look, I'm not against race swapping characters all the time. I want to be very clear about that, and I'm not against that. My thing is like, look, we've got Clamp Champ. Why the hell aren't you making him a main character? Why are you putting Roboto in there instead of freaking Clamp Champ?
I don't know. Why don't you just make some new characters?
Make some new characters.
I mean, but again, like if you're gonna do it, I guess using characters that are like less known so that you can make them more known and then people will recognize them that way makes sense, I guess. But it's just, I'm just like, of course it is. For me, more it's just like, of course they did, because anything you could possibly think that they would do in current year, they're gonna do. So it's like expectations not subverted. I totally expected them to do this stuff. We'll probably have characters that were male that suddenly appeared as women now.
Probably. But yeah, to have one of the writers come out and say, we asked ourselves earlier, and apparently this is the real deal. It's on the Facebook group.
Yeah, I wonder where it was coming from.
Yeah, I don't want to like out anybody on the Facebook group, so I'm not going to go there. But the fact that they're like early on, like there are too many buff white men. So what can we do? Okay, one of them we can take all the power away and have the woman take over, and the other one we'll just make him black.
Yeah, pretty much. It's like, well, how are we going to take this and make it so it's more current year and fair to everyone? And Adam looks like a woman. Have you noticed that? Teal looks like a dude and Adam looks like a girl.
I hate the Adam design. I absolutely effing hate it. I mean, people were making comparisons between him and Prince Valium from Spaceballs.
Yes.
But they made him look very femme and very weak and very girly, and he didn't. I mean,
they have Hero and Vicor.
Oh, Vicor.
Because Hero's here, I guess.
Okay.
So now, so this makes more sense. So here's King Grayskull. So
there's
Hero, and Vicor.
Okay.
Those are the Guardians of He. Are they allowed to be are you allowed to say the Guardians of He? Isn't that problematic?
The Guardians of He. The She-Man Woman Haters Club.
I'm just like, okay, are they allowed to say that?
So are they gonna go like Avatar on it and be like, these are all the past incarnations of He-Man? That's what I'm wondering. Okay,
no, that's what I think is going on. That's what I think is supposed to be the past incarnations.
Yeah, okay, so that makes sense with Hero. Yeah, because he had gold armor. So what they were gonna do, if I remember correctly, is they were gonna do pre-Eternia, and they were gonna go back to the past with Masters of the Universe in like 87, 88, if the line had continued, and they were going to have Hero and Eldor, who's like Merlin, basically, and then they were going to have dinosaurs with laser guns strapped to their heads.
Mm-hmm. But, we know this because, when you're actually fans of the original show and you had the toys and you actually pay attention to this stuff, you would know this. So, I mean, they are taking some things from, the past, but it's just... I don't even know. I mean, it's basically going to be exactly what you think it's going to be. I think at this point,
yeah,
I don't really even care. They made him black. Honestly, I really don't. Other than the fact that I'm just so effing tired of that's their go-to for everything. And then somebody made a comment in response to her, and they're like, "Well, if you don't like two white dudes being in charge, why are you doing He-Man then?"
Oh, no, because again, there are two things going on here. One is about the brand recognition, because we know, He-Man. Oh
yeah, because you're saying Kevin Smith can't carry something unless it has brand recognition outside of him?
Yeah, because, all his movies in the last 10 years have done phenomenally well at the box office.
Teela can't be a well-known character, even though she's been a main character for years, unless she has a half-shaved head and is man-at-arms.
Yeah. So yeah, that's part of it. And the other part of it is Hollywood can't resist the opportunity to emasculate masculine franchises. He-Man and G.I. Joe, and they were historically very male franchises.
Well, this isn't even about being male. He's still male. It's just that they're trying to we can't have it be too white.
Yeah, well, I think it's the Netflix guidelines. I think that's what's going on. I honestly do think this is a conversation. I could totally see this happening. Like Mattel and Kevin Smith going into Netflix. Not that I'm absolving them of any of the, whatever. If this thing winds up being a disaster, I'm not absolving them, because you can still work with what you got, right? But they probably went in and Netflix is like, okay, this is great, except here's our new policy. Has to be X number of these kinds of people, next number of these kinds of people. You got to have at least 50% women. We've only got Tila.
Again, I'm not joking when I say Hollywood thinks that diversity is lesbians, women, and black people.
Yeah, so they're gonna be
I'm not joking.
So they're probably like, oh crap, the only prominent female really in Masters is Tila. Let's think about this. Oh, there was a really Mattel guys probably like, there was this really obscure character in the comic books. Nobody knows who she is, so we can make her black too. There we go. So 2 checkboxes. Netflix person's like, hot damn, now you're thinking.
Well, if she ends up being Tila's girlfriend, that's 3 checkboxes.
Right? So we'll make them ambiguously gay. They'll be ambiguously gay. They won't actually be an item, but they're ship bait.
Everybody's like, you just hate people that, you're just a racist, misogynist. No, it's like, I really honestly don't have a problem with it. As far as, King Grayskull, to me, it's like, it's just that they're taking a show that's established and they're literally doing like they did with She-Ra, except I think She-Ra might be worse. And they're just like tearing it apart and just trying to assign checkboxes to characters randomly just to say that they did it. And all under the whole diversity inclusion, and if you don't like it, it's because you're a terrible person.
Yeah. So my thing is like, I get, current year, you want the show to be more diverse or whatever, but my thing is like, okay, fine, then reboot it. Why sell it as a sequel to an existing, because they did this in the 2002 series. They brought Zodak back. They actually had a much better fleshed out, because Zodak was like a nothing burger in the original show. He was a guy in a magic chair. That's literally all he did, was sit in a chair. New Zodak was a fucking badass. And guess what? He was black. I didn't give a shit. He was a badass. He was awesome.
He can't be now because,
Oh, it's problematic. Mm-hmm. It's problematic for him to be, yeah. So, look, they're trying to sell it as a sequel to the original. And I can tell you just in watching those trailers, it doesn't feel like the original.
Zodak will be orange now, blonde hair.
Oh my god. Yeah, they'll go there. I'm going to build a wall in Eternia.
I'm just saying.
Keep the evil warriors and the heroic warriors apart. Yeah, I don't know. So it's just another one of those things where it's like, guys, I don't know what to tell you. It still might be good. We've said this before.
Oh, no. Yeah, I love it. I will just take a moment as a side here. I just love how, no matter what we say, it gets twisted that we said other things because so-and-so told them that we said things.
Yeah.
And we never said, like, oh, the animation's going to suck. Never said that. From day one, we said the animation will be good. We don't know how the story's going to be. And it still might be good. It's just that it seems like every day closer to it coming out, it just seems
Unravels.
like more and more shit comes out. And it's exactly what you thought it was going to be. It's like they told you it was, like you said, it was going to be a sequel. So as a continuation, they said continuation. As a continuation, one would expect the characters to remain the same. If you want the characters different, then you reboot it. It's a continuation. It's going to pick off where the other show left off, except that all the characters are different now for no damn reason.
Yeah, I'm telling you right now, I view this as apocrypha at this point. I'm lumping this one in with the Disney Star Wars, where it might be an okay show, but it is not a sequel to the original. It's clear they're going off and doing their own thing. And again, just reboot it if that's the way you're going to go.
I guess I can kind of get away with saying it's continuation from the original show if they use, King Grayskull, because he wasn't really in the original.
No, he wasn't in the original.
And
show.
If they use, what's her name again? Was it Audra? Andra. If they use, my mind went blank for a minute, guys. If they use Andra, she again was in there, but it was so minor. It was more the comics, and it was such a minor part that didn't matter.
She was in nothing.
So characters that were very minor in the comic, or you didn't know about them much in the comic, or in the cartoon and comic moving forward. Yeah, I guess you can still argue it's a continuation if you're changing those characters. And again, I have no problem with that because they aren't established, highly established. If you forget the 2002, which Kevin Smith seems to step over all the damn time, even though it's probably going to be superior to his show.
Oh my god, now I am so pissed because the marketing for this show,
it's like what happened with She-Ra.
Yeah, it's like for the first time in 40 years, He-Man's coming back, guys.
Well, 40 years ago, He-Man the comics were out, but the show wasn't.
No, the show wasn't even on. Yeah, I had the toys before the show even came out.
The show wasn't even on 40 years ago.
And I was completely confused because my mini comics had a totally different story. Than actually the 2002 He-Man was closer to the comics than it was to the
Right, but that's why dumbass said, "Oh, I've been a fan since I watched it on TV in '81," because the narrative they're trying to spin is 40 years, 40 years. Except it wasn't 40 years.
The franchise has been around for 40 years. The show was on a couple of years after the fact.
So you didn't watch it in '81.
No, you didn't.
Anyway, continue. I'm sorry.
He's got a time machine.
I'm sorry to butt into your rant. The floor is yours.
2002 He-Man is one of the best reboots of any 80s franchise ever. The show was amazing. It was so good. It was so well done. And you could tell they actually cared about the characters. There are all kinds of nuggets in there they actually pulled from the comics. They pulled from the cartoons. And they pulled from, other storybooks and stuff like that. And they kind of, they made it make sense. They actually had a plan going into it. The people who worked on the show cared about the franchise, and it shows.
And the reason I'm not saying, okay, you could say, well, they're going to do the same thing with this one. They're going to pull nuggets and different things here, and they might. But the reason the people that are writing the show didn't make comments like, oh, we have to change it because it's two blonde-haired white dudes. That wouldn't have been something they said.
No.
That just means you don't care about the show. You're just using it as a vehicle to promote yourself or promote something else.
Mike Young Productions, they did interviews with people working on the show, and they were like, well, we did this or we did that because, in the original show, it didn't make a lot of sense. Again, going back to Adam in the original show, why did they have to fem him up? Because if you go back to 2002 He-Man, it was clear he was younger and weaker than He-Man, but he didn't look like a chick.
Mm-mm. That's okay. Teela looks like a dude.
Yeah, Teela looked pretty badass in the original too. She was a warrior. She was, This
reminds me when they did those just Star Wars, adventure, whatever, and they had Leia saving Luke and slapping him across the face. But that didn't happen.
Yeah, a show, if you get the opportunity, guys, somebody's, I think it's Dark Child, has the entire series on YouTube. And hopefully it'll still be on. They won't pull it down because I brought attention to it. Watch it. You want to know how to do a reboot right? Watch this. 2011 Thundercats, I think, was another one that I would put into the...
Yes, and look what we got now. Current year, we got Thundercats Roar.
Yeah.
I don't want... She-Ra, they completely don't even... and even She-Ra made Thundercats Roar look, or Thundercats Roar made she look good. But they're going the She-Ra out with it. They're probably not going to go as far as they did with She-Ra because they know that damn well people aren't going to let them get away with it. But they're definitely going to start doing that.
Yeah.
I'm just... again, Hollywood thinks that's what diversity is. And that to be diverse, you have to just, change everything because they're them and they can. And the fans, if they don't like it, it's because they're horrible people, not because you're appropriating something and changing it from something that it was so you can pander.
Yeah, I will laugh so hard if it turns out that 2002 He-Man, made almost 20 years ago, is a vastly superior reimagining than the Kevin Smith He-Man. I will laugh because I'll be like, they did it 20 years ago, bitch.
Oh no, that it hasn't been done in 40 years since before the show even came out.
They ignore it completely. People keep bringing up like, what about the 2002 show? What about the 2002 show? Never mentioned.
Yeah, it's like because finally Kevin Smith's here to do it 40 years later when he watched it back in '81 when it wasn't on TV, with his psychic powers. I just and again, that doesn't mean the show's gonna suck. We don't know.
No.
But the more I see of it, the more I'm like, if nothing else, we know it's gonna be another show. It's gonna be the same as the other shows out there because they're already starting with it. So it's gonna be just they're all carbon copies of each other at this point.
Yeah, it's not even. It's the point where it's like. I'm not even mad about that. I'm like, look at this.
Yeah, I wasn't even mad about. I'm not mad about King Grayskull either. Honestly,
no.
I'm not,
it's the disdain. That's what gets me.
Yes, the comments.
Like, okay, fine, just put it out there. Whatever.
Why they didn't have to make comments like this?
Do we really need two white blonde?
Do you
dudes?
really believe someone making these comments gave a shit about the show and actually want to make sure it's a good show? Do you honestly believe that? Because somebody who was a real fan who cared about the show would never say that to begin with. They'd be like, we thought about it, and if we have some really good characters that, from the original we didn't have in there, maybe we're going to bring them back. We might make some changes to them just to make it, more accessible to a lot of people. And people would be like, okay. But they didn't. They're just flat out throwing shade right from the get-go. Somebody who says stuff like this isn't somebody who's going to be a fan of the damn show.
No.
And that's one of the writers.
Yeah, it's all marketing bullshit anymore. People latch on to these classic IPs. They have no love for it. It's a stepping stone. And for Kevin Smith, this is just another project. You know, he just wants to get in with Netflix.
I'm just tired of lies. What makes me mad is, what really pisses me off, is all the shit that got thrown our way because you made one tweet that someone told you, which turned out to be mostly right.
Yeah.
And then him coming down and acting the way he did, and then it's come out 3 times that he lied. But that's okay. But we said something that turned out to be true, and we got shit. And he lied. He said he watched the show back in 19. He was being a big fan of the show since 1981 when he watched it. Except it wasn't on in 1981. Good job there. He said, you know, and then they caught him another thing talking about how he never really liked He-Man, and they caught him another one. He never watched it. And I'm like, okay, well maybe you know he watched it after that, and then he became a fan. But then it turned out he made the comment. He watched it back, and he said about watching it back in '81, and then he made the comment that they had for years before, where he said he didn't really care about He-Man.
Yeah, because it's Hollywood, and what's gonna happen is the show's gonna drop. It's gonna get mixed reactions, whatever. Kevin Smith is gonna cash his check, and he's gonna move on to something else, and just hope it never comes up again. You know, that's how it works. It's just like, you know, and Netflix will move on to another established IP. Same thing, blow through, make a season or 2, whatever, change everything up.
They'll have, you know, 5-6 episode seasons and then say, oh, look, we had 5 seasons of the show. I'm just not liking this, you know, the fact that the writer is making these comments.
Yeah, well, that just shows the mindset, so.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yep, we're going to wrap it up.
Yep.
All right, so please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, guys. We'll talk later.
Bye.